I had just come out of surgery and was still groggy from anesthesia when I heard my sister say, "If she doesn't make it, do I get her room?" My mom laughed. I wanted to believe I was dreaming. A week later, I found out they had already gone through my things. "We thought you'd be in recovery longer," she said. I didn't say a word. But when the will was read at our aunt's funeral 2 months later, I stood up with a letter and gave her exactly what she asked for. Room included. I don't remember being wheeled out of the operating room. I don't remember being taken to recovery. What I do remember, clearly, sharply, is the moment I started coming out of the fog of anesthesia. Everything was blurry, my head heavy like someone had poured cement into it. But I could hear voices. The first one was my mom's, quiet and a little tired. The next voice, that was my sister, Megan. She said, "If she doesn't make it, do I get her room?" And my mom laughed. A short, dry little chuckle like it was some harmless joke. I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I wasn't even sure if my heart was beating at a normal pace. But I heard every word. They didn't know I was awake. Or maybe they didn't care. Either way, I lay there in that hospital bed, with tubes in my arms and pain cutting through the fog of the drugs, and I listened to the two people closest to me talk about me like I was already gone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to tear the oxygen line out of my nose and tell them both to get the hell out. But I couldn't. So I waited, letting their words sit on me like stones. That surgery had scared me. The doctors had said it would be easy, just removing a mass that wasn't even cancerous. But I'd bled more than expected. Needed an extra night in the ICU. Everyone acted like it was no big deal, but clearly Megan had already moved on. I got discharged 5 days later. Still sore. Still weak. My abdomen felt like it had been through a war. But at least I was home. Only, it didn't feel like home. I walked into my bedroom and knew instantly that something was wrong. It was subtle at first. A few books weren't where I left them. A necklace I always kept on the dresser was missing. My bedside journal, gone. I opened my closet. Half of it looked rearranged. My sweaters were folded differently. My old ballet box, the one I hadn't opened in years, but still kept, was gone completely. I didn't say anything right away. I was too exhausted. But 2 days later, I asked Megan. I found her on the couch watching a show and just said it flat out. "Did you go through my room?" She barely looked up. "Yeah, we thought you'd be in recovery longer. I just needed some space." No apology. No guilt. Just that smug, matter-of-fact voice she always used when she thought she had the upper hand. "You needed space?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Yeah, Mom said it was fine." "Don't freak out." When I went to our mom, she said the same thing. "Oh, relax. It was just a few things. You're being sensitive." That was the word she always used to shut me down, sensitive. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't beg for respect. I just said, "Okay," and walked away. Because 2 days later, Aunt Janine died. She'd been sick for a while. Pancreatic cancer. The kind that eats people alive. She'd always been more of a mother to me than my actual mom. She called me when I was down. She remembered every birthday. She was kind, but she never lied. "Your mom doesn't see you the way I do," she told me one Christmas. "But that doesn't mean you're not worth something." Her death hit me hard. I cried for days. Megan barely said a word about it. Mom didn't even take time off work. But I knew something that neither of them did. Aunt Janine had a will. And she told me once, after one especially cold family dinner, that she was going to make things right someday. I didn't expect her to leave me everything. But I knew there would be something that mattered. The funeral was small, quiet, held in a church she liked just outside of Bedford, Ohio. After the service, the lawyer gathered the family to read the will. Megan was scrolling through her phone. Mom looked bored. I waited until the lawyer had gone through the formalities, who got what, small items, some cash. Then he got to me. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Aunt Janine. My hands were shaking, but I stood up. And I read it out loud. The room got quiet when I stood. I don't think anyone expected me to speak. Least of all my mom or Megan. The letter was short. Just 1 page. But every word hit like a brick. To my niece, my true family, I leave what peace I can offer. You've been treated like you're invisible for too long. I see you. And I want others to see what I saw. My house is yours now. Not just because I love you, but because I trust you'll do something with it. As for the others, let them wonder. Megan's head snapped up. Wait, what? I ignored her. I handed the rest of the document, the legal part, to the lawyer, who confirmed it. My aunt left me her house. Fully paid off. Furniture, bank account, everything. The biggest thing? She left a note in the legal section stating that if anyone contested the will, they'd be disqualified from receiving anything else she owned, even the sentimental items. I looked right at Megan. You said you wanted my room, right? She blinked. What the hell are you talking about? You can have it, I said. Because I won't be living there anymore. You and Mom can do whatever you want with the house now. I'll be moving into Aunt Janine's. So congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. It took a moment for the words to land. When they did, the look on her face was perfect shock, then rage. You're seriously doing this? Over a joke. That wasn't a joke, I said. You meant every word. You're being dramatic again. Mom snapped. No. I'm finally being done. I left that day and never looked back. But the story didn't end there. Because a month after I moved into Aunt Janine's house, I got a call. From Megan. Crying. You need to come home. Please. What happened? It's Mom. She's losing it. Turns out, once I left, things in that house went downhill fast. Megan started trying to take over everything, my closet, my old laptop, even my saved documents on Mom's desktop computer. Mom let her at first. But Megan pushed too far. They started fighting. Big fights. Screaming matches. Neighbors called the cops more than once. But that's not even the twist. The twist was what I found when I finally went back. Because despite everything, I still cared enough to check. When I walked into my old room, I saw something taped to the wall. A letter. Not from Megan. From my mom. Handwritten. Dated a week before the surgery. It read, if anything happens to her, we need to be ready. Megan will take the room. I'll clean it out. She doesn't need all that stuff anyway. This house needs change. She'd been planning it before I even went into the hospital. They weren't just hoping I'd be okay. They were planning for what to do if I died. I stood there in my old room, that note trembling in my hand. My mom had planned for me not to come back. Not out of fear. Not out of grief. But for convenience. I don't know what cracked in me at that moment. But something did. I walked back into the living room where Megan was curled up on the couch with tissues, eyes red and puffy. She looked up at me like I was the only person who could save her. She's going off the rails, she said. She told me I'm ungrateful, that I ruined everything. I didn't respond. I just held up the note. Her eyes flicked to it. She recognized the handwriting. Oh my God, she whispered. I could see the realization setting in that this was real, that it wasn't just me being emotional or dramatic. Our mother had written us both off like we were chess pieces. And Megan had helped her. I didn't know she wrote that, Megan said. I mean, I didn't think she actually meant, you didn't care, I cut in. You didn't care if I came back or not. You had my room picked out like you were shopping. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I didn't wait for an excuse. I turned and walked out. I thought that was the end. But 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at my new house. No return address. Just my name on the front, in the same handwriting as that note. Inside were 5 words, written in bold black marker. We should have finished the job. No signature. No explanation. Just that. At first, I thought it was some sick prank. But the paper, same brand as my mom's stationery. The writing? I compared it to the note I found in my room. Same slant. Same pen. Was it my mom? Megan? Someone else? The next day, I found tire marks on my front lawn. Someone had driven up and peeled out at night. My neighbor saw a car but didn't get the plate. Black sedan. Tinted windows. I knew I wasn't safe. So I made a decision. One that would change everything. If they wanted my room that badly, they could have it. Because I was going to burn the whole damn house down, figuratively speaking, and I had the match in my hands. I didn't go to the police. I didn't call and report the letter or the tire marks. I knew they wouldn't do anything with what little I had. And I didn't want this to go through courts or lawyers. I wanted the truth to come out in front of everyone. I wanted them to feel what I felt, exposed, betrayed, ripped wide open. So I started planning. First, I made copies of everything. The handwritten note I found taped in my old room. The threatening letter. Photos of my missing belongings. Even a printout of a text I had backed up, one I forgot I saved, where Megan once told a friend she was counting down the days until that room was hers. Then I called a woman named Darlene, an old friend of Aunt Janine's who had worked with her at a nonprofit for years. Darlene hated my mom. Said she'd always seen her as greedy and two-faced. Darlene agreed to help me organize a memorial celebration in my aunt's name, hosted at the community hall where Janine used to volunteer. We sent invitations to everyone. Family, friends, neighbors, even old coworkers. Over 100 people came. My mom and Megan showed up late. Megan was wearing the same dress she wore at the funeral, too tight, too short, totally inappropriate. My mom looked annoyed before she even walked in the door. I waited until the food had been served, the music had died down, and everyone had gathered in the hall for speeches and memories. That's when I stood up and said I had something to share. I walked to the front, picked up the mic. I wasn't shaking this time. I want to thank everyone for coming, I said. My Aunt Janine would have loved seeing this room full of people she cared about. But I also think she'd want the truth to be known, especially about what happened after I came out of surgery. And what happened after she died. I paused. I saw my mom stiffen in her chair. Megan looked like she'd just swallowed her tongue. Then I started. I read Aunt Janine's letter again. Then I showed the copy of the note I found in my old bedroom. I passed around the threatening letter, carefully protected in a sleeve. I even played a voicemail I'd saved, where my mom told a family friend, if she's smart, she'll just give Megan the room and move out. People gasped. Murmurs spread through the room like wildfire. I looked at my mom. You always said I was too sensitive. Maybe I was. But now you get to see what that looks like when it finally speaks up. Megan stood up, furious. You're making us look like monsters. You did that all by yourself, I said. And then I delivered the final blow. I'm donating half of what Aunt Janine left me to the shelter she volunteered at. Under her name. Not yours. Not mine. Hers. Cheers broke out. My mom walked out in silence. Megan followed her, but not before hurling one last comment. You're dead to us. I smiled. Guess that makes us even. That was the last time I saw either of them. Now, every time I walk into my aunt's house, the one she left me, I feel peace. I kept one thing from my old room. A framed photo of me and Janine, laughing on her porch. Everything else I let go. They wanted my room. They can have it. Empty. Cold. And missing the one thing they'll never get back.